Yeah, there were audible gasps all around the stadium on a couple of occasions, Richie, during that second half, but particularly when Iran got what we thought initially was an equaliser, but VAR cleared it up. And it wasn't.
There was a lot of gasps in this studio as well when this went in, and there was obviously a little bit of a confusion initially. We saw the referee's hand go up, as the footage there has just shown. These players at this moment don't realise what's going on. Spanish players are there appealing with the referee. To be clear, this is a goal that was disallowed because of the assistant referee's flag. What the referee is doing now is just going to VAR just to make sure. So this isn't a decision that VAR came in and overruled an incorrect decision. So the system worked. It was implemented correctly by the referee. The right outcome was reached. So we're not talking here about a goal that was wrongly given.
Yeah.
So it was well worked by the official there on that occasion.
Yeah, the time actually from the referee going to VAR and the decision being made was 1 minute 34 seconds. But of course,
do you know what a lot of people talk about?
The people in the stadium don't know. We didn't know. We weren't privy. Now, if it's a game of rugby union, the people in the stadium are privy to what's going on, and of course, people at home, and they need to refine that.
In this particular instance, Eamon, I think we have seen what was happening when the referee went for a review in previous games.
Yeah.
And the fans in the stadium are supposed to be shown the result, the outcome of the VAR after the fact. And we don't know sitting here whether that came up on a big screen in the stadium or not. But there is still an element of confusion there, isn't there?
Yeah, it took us a long time to get the definitive view of it, but we have it. If people just hang on, we can show exactly why it was given.
Yeah, this was it here. We were talking about the two players go up, number 20 and number 19. There's a fist actually there from, I think, you could see that Ezo Tolahi, who was the goal scorer, is in an offside position there at that moment. So I know the footage was paused at the moment the free kick was taken.
It wasn't directly from the free kick as we thought.
Yeah,
it was the next phase of play.
It was the next phase of play, and he was clearly a yard offside.
So the bottom line is...
I know you made the comment there about the timing of the decision and how long it took.
Well, I was going to ask the question, is it too long or is it...
That is relevant, but the key thing for me was the right outcome reached. That's the starting in all of this. And if it was, in any scenario, you just think, well, within reason, it doesn't really matter how long it took.
Yeah,
the right outcome was reached.
Yeah, because it didn't interfere in any celebrations, because immediately when the goal was scored, Iran thought they had their goal, they went off and celebrated. Then everything had to come to a stop until VAR came to its decision.
Wouldn't it be nice, though, for something to come up on the screen, number 6 handball at number 20? This is the reason we came to that decision. We're all here. We were 5 minutes wondering, was it the free kick initially? Was he offside when he took the free kick? Was it there? Yeah. So, just something, there's enough referees up in that little box they're up into. Someone type it out, put it up on the big screen, say number 20 handball, that's the correct, or whatever it is, just so everyone isn't... No one's sure. We're saying that's the reason. We're still not sure whether the linesman gave it for the initial free kick where it looked like he might have been a touch offside, or was it for the handball? Probably was for that. But just clear up a lot of things by a simple message.
Yeah, I mean, we have the advantage, Eamon, sitting here in studio looking at replay after replay, trying to decipher exactly what VAR we're looking at. I suppose the fans are still at a slight disadvantage in the stadium.
And in rugby you can hear the chat between the third match official and the referee. Is there any reason why I shouldn't give a try? And you'll hear the response. And so you're part of it.
You're well informed, yeah. Do you think there's any reason why football is reluctant to introduce that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Didi Hammam, who I have great respect for, he thinks it slows the game down, it takes too long, and he says soccer is not like rugby, it's a free-flowing game. I don't agree, because I think Richie's right. The most important thing is we get the right outcomes, that justice is done on the pitch, that people aren't encouraged to cheat, and that fans aren't going to feel that their team was cheated. So I think getting the right outcome is the most important thing. And there is a bit more work to be done on it. I don't know what Kevin thinks about it, but I like it. But people I really respect think no.
Yeah, it hasn't been perfected yet. There's no doubt about that.
Question, did you ask there, is football likely to bring in a scenario where you can hear the referee and the official? It would be great, and it would solve the communication issue, and it would cover up a lot of the uncertainty. The difference between culture on a rugby pitch and football pitch, there is a lot of choice language and communications between the footballers and a referee, which you just don't get in rugby.
So well, they don't have to open the microphone for that now.
If you were to put a microphone and hear communications between the referee, you would hear a lot of other things.
That rugby players
don't swear,
don't curse more than, or
to the
soccer players curse
tends
more
to
than.
be a sign of respect.
There's a no-go zone.
There's a no, and I think if you put a microphone up against the referees, I think the surround sound that you would hear from the players who are, you know, in conversation or deliberations or appealing, I think would
might be too much.
Turn the airways blue.
Yeah, would have to be delayed. Possibly.
You could just go up, they could put a little, you know, big sign on the screen. The game could play on, the decision's made, and 2 minutes, 30 seconds later, you know, text could come up on the big screen. This is the decision, why it was made, or whatever. It doesn't have to be live at the time.
The other thing we need to cut out is players harassing referees.
Yeah,
and I mean, I remember the notorious incident where Roy Keane and a few Manchester United players ran a referee 50 yards, and he was running away from them. And that's got to stop.
And I wonder how the introduction of VAR is going to do that, because the biggest reason you tell people not to harass the referee is what? Because he's made his decision and he's not going to change it. Now, the introduction of VAR introduces the possibility for the first time ever that a referee actually will change his decision. So I think the introduction of this inadvertently encourages players to.
But the thing is, it is in the rules already that the players are not supposed to harass the referee to go to VAR, and
we've seen it.
We've seen players giving it all this during the tournament, and they're actually not supposed to do it. So I suppose maybe they feel this system is still, in a way, on a trial basis, and that all the rules aren't being implemented rigorously. Kevin, what was your experience of it in the States?
Yeah, we had a number of meetings with the refs. It was brought in about a year ago in the MLS, and you know, a number of meetings, a number of warnings. We can't do that. We can't speak to the ref while it's going on. Your captain is allowed to go up and say one or two words to him, but that's it. Anyone else go up, it's an instant yellow. And they did. It was an instant yellow. Anyone did that sign, instant yellow. So no one did it. You know, straight away it was cut down, and that was the end of it. We left them alone, but it doesn't look like they've got the same chat that we had.
No, and I suppose, Eamon, I think you made the point the other night that a lot of the referees haven't used it in their own leagues.
No, they haven't.
So this is their first experience of it on the world stage.
Absolutely, it's massive. I mean, most of the officials involved in all of this now, in front of the whole world, have not got it in their own country. This is really at the experimental stage, and it will be refined, I hope, because I agree with the system. But it is, I think, another curse is this harassment of referees, and it should be stopped. The referee's authority shouldn't be in any way threatened, and it is diminished by that. And in rugby, if you do that, you get a yellow card and you're gone.
Yeah.
And it's having the political will in FIFA and UEFA, in the Premier League, to actually say, we're sick of this. The fans are sick of this. The referees are sick of it. Because down through the game, in schoolboy football, in junior football, referees are getting harassed or worse. So football as a sport has to clean its act up and make it a game of real sportsmanship played by people who respect the authority figure on the pitch, which is the referee and, of course, the assistants.
Yeah. Why do you think, lads, that football has been so lenient? Because we see it. I mean, there are so many cameras now, particularly on the big Premier League games and all the other games we see coming in from La Liga and the Bundesliga and Liga and all that sort of thing. And we see this constant harassing of referees. I'm sure it'd be quite simple to cut it out, wouldn't it?
Again, like the phrase, if there's a will within FIFA, or the people who introduce rule changes or who influence the referees to enforce certain laws, if there's a will there, they can pretty much do anything. Because once you introduce a system where people are going to get booked and consistently booked, so they know a certain action will result in a booking, it'll be stamped out. There is, I mean, the laws are there. It's like foul and abusive language to an official. But the line moves a lot in terms of what's actually foul and abusive, and is it just swear words? You have to swear at him, you have to call him something, or can you just swear in his general direction or about the situation? So managers do it, coaches do it, players do it. At the moment, a lot of people think a referee is a justifiable, legitimate target for abuse when you're just not happy with what's going on.
Intimidation works over a period of time. A 90-minute game, you know, if you can get in the referee's head, and referees are human, then you get a result, don't you? Very often. That's the objective of it, isn't it? The next time he's got to make a decision, he thinks.
Yeah, you just
put
a seed of doubt,
told,
intimidate him, rattle him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but some people have made the point that if you sanitise the game to such an extent that it will take a little bit of that competitive edge out of the game, but also it'll take the edginess that you get from football crowds who are also getting onto the referee, who are also getting onto the opposition, and that it creates this atmosphere. Okay, it may be an atmosphere of intimidation.
No, well, I don't think removing abuse of officials by players could be called sanitising it in a negative way, a detrimental way. It would be a huge step forward.
Yeah.
Like, what does it bring to the game? The occasion, the spectacle, the atmosphere. Like, nothing positive at all.
No.
To see an official, be it the assistant, the fourth official, or the main referee, just surrounded by players with hand gestures, mouthing, chasing them, there's nothing positive. There's no argument can be made in any way that adds anything.
I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just putting the point.
I'm just saying, you mentioned the Bundesliga and La Liga. It's much less prevalent in those leagues than it is in the Premier League.
Why is that?
I think the culture around, you hear stuff in English football stadiums that you wouldn't want your children hearing. You don't want to hear them yourself. And some of them are very unpleasant. I think it's also the culture. I mean, for example, in Spain, you don't see managers fighting on the touchline. Mourinho introduced that to Spain when he was up against Guardiola and Titi Villanova, the late Titi Villanova, who was the coach. He stuck his finger in Villanova's eye. He introduced that stuff to Spain. But most of the European continental coaches are very, very respectful of their fellow coaches, and they give them a hug after the game, and it's what they do. You see them. I mean, I'll give you some examples if you like.
Excuse me.
Ancelotti, for example, gentleman through and through. Ranieri, people like that. There is some there are exceptions to every rule. I think Alex Ferguson, who was a great coach, he in particular was aggressive and bad-mannered on the touchline.
That's where we got the Fergie time expression from, isn't it?
Yes, but that was also designed to intimidate officials, match officials, and he became a cult hero for doing it, and that's the difference. I don't think there is an Italian like Conte at Chelsea, Antonio Conte. He's a total gentleman.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him fight with anybody.
Was it English football that changed Jose Mourinho's approach, Eamon, or?
I think he's a special case. He's not a special one. He's a special case. I think Richie does a bit of psychotherapy, he might tell you. But I think he's an insecure guy and a bad example. A bad example for the game. He should be, now at his stage in life, a respected and admired figure for what he's won. In fact, I think a lot of people hold him in contempt. John Giles and people that are really, I respect, again, detest him. And I was in a room the other night full of people, and a lot of Manchester United fans, and we asked the question, who here in this audience would like Mourinho to stay? And no hand went up. And Bobby Charlton spoke out publicly when there was talk of him going to Manchester United when Ferguson was still coach. And he said, I don't think he's for us.
Richie, do you think Jose Mourinho's demeanour changed when he returned to the Premier League for his second stint with Chelsea? That there was something different about him and his approach.
Can we go back to the match tonight?
No, we're talking about Jose Mourinho.
Jose's spirit was there.
Can we go back to the general point of treatment of officials? And I think one of us made the point tonight, it's a cultural thing. There are certain things you can aim at senior players or international or top players and say, they're the ones guilty of it and setting the wrong example. But if you go down to, I remember I had an experience working with Millwall Academy, and one particular team, we had to send a letter to all the parents of this team. I think there was the under-14 team. Said, unless you change your behaviour, we can't stage games because referees were refusing to officiate for your games because the mouthing and the carry-on the sidelines, which you think is normal and acceptable, is way beyond the line of what you should be carrying on. So it's right throughout the game. Go to any football match this weekend, and unless the club or a manager of the team has a very strict policy and real clear communications and guidelines with all the parents, you'll see a load of mouthing aimed at the referee, and everyone will think, that whether you're relieving stress, you're trying to intimidate him, that he's a legitimate target for abuse. And that's right throughout the game.
Well, that conversation all began with the intimidation of the referees, but I think we can conclude that if that was cut out of the game, it certainly would be a good thing. How did Jose Mourinho get in there? Even when he's not involved in the World Cup, he's around somewhere. Anyway, never mind.